Birding ethics is easy until an owl shows up. Then it all goes to hell.
Don't blame this on me.
Don't listen to him. There's been a snowy owl in this neighborhood for a month, attracting a lot of attention. What is an Arctic bird doing next to Maine's biggest city, in a crowded neighborhood, right along the ocean's edge? I mean, what? She's behaved herself pretty well. Unlike some of the people who have come to visit her, I don't think I have to find the owl. I just have to find a crowd. There's just something about owls. They're sexy and spooky at the same time.
Are you just going to stand there and talk? You're going to need a video for this video.
And there it is. When it's an owl, gotta make an exception. Gotta get a little closer. Gotta get a better shot. Gotta get the light just right.
But don't do it.
There's a code of ethics for everything. Laws, rules, the Bible. The American Birding Association Code of Ethics is a pretty good guide for proper birding behavior. The problem is ethics is personal. It's been frequently described as what you would think about doing if nobody was watching. And whether we like it or not, ethics are sometimes a little fuzzy depending on the situation. Take the cardinal rule of birding ethics: don't get too close. But what's too close?
That flammulated owl is a lifer. You better get a closer look.
It's tempting, but you know better than that.
The best way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it.
You can't even say no to a second beer. That may be easy if other people are there, just don't get any closer than they are. But what if they're too close? Do you say anything? What if nobody else is there? Do you get a little closer? Wildlife photographers face this dilemma all the time. They may have no intention of harassing an owl, but sometimes they need to get the light right, or the background right. Or sometimes there's an obstacle or a branch or something in the way, and they gotta move maybe a little closer, and a little closer, and maybe just a little closer. Imagine you're a professional wildlife photographer, and a good owl photo puts food on the table for your family. A sleeping owl can get you a few bucks. An active owl, that could get you considerably more. A flying owl, man, that could be the holy grail. Do you try to get its attention? You can get a sharp photo with blurry ethics.
And you too. Your great channel, Bob, needs a good owl video.
Great channel? Have you even watched this channel?
I'm playing to his ego.
I'm playing to his conscience.
The devil made me do it.
Life bird, great photo. It's tempting to get too close, especially if you don't exactly know how close is too close. I have that problem right here, even for ordinary birds. It's one of my favorite places for barred owls. They nest in here every year, and I'm sure they're still in the area. Sometimes I see them on the wires. And we're always looking at each other. How close is too close? If the bird is watching me, I'm too close. If the bird is staring at me, I'm way too close. If the bird flushes, totally, shame on me. You're going to hell.
Yeah, but the road here is paved with good intentions.
My rule of thumb is figure out the right distance to be away from the bird, and then double it, because I am terrible at ethical math. All right, let's make this more complicated, using owls as a perfect example. Every owl species has its own idea of how close is too close. Just based on my own observations, smaller owls tend to let you get closer, but not necessarily because they like you any better. Smaller owls, maybe even up to the size of a long-eared owl, just may be a greater risk if they flush from cover, because they could be the victim of a larger owl or a different raptor. They may be staying there under cover, even if you are making them uncomfortable. The last long-eared owl I saw was a total surprise. 3 of us walked within 15 feet of it on a path before I even saw he was sitting there staring at us right at eye level. Barred owls do that to me all the time, especially my local owls. They see people, people see the owls, everybody gets used to each other. If I'm in the woods, further away from people, the barred owls seem to be a little more skittish. My sister once lived in southern Florida, and she took her kids to the library and they read a book that said if you scrape dirt in the backyard, a burrowing owl will finish it. Well, they did, and it did. In that neighborhood, burrowing owls are sitting on rooftops of the garages and on the phone wires heading down the driveway. They're used to each other. This eastern screech owl has been using this cavity for over a year, and it's on a popular trail right in downtown Portland, Maine. So many people have just walked up to the tree and looked at him, and he's looked right back. Where do you go to see a ferruginous pygmy owl? The King Ranch in Texas. They lead tours to see their celebrity owls every day, so the owls see a lot of people. It just shows you that encroachment varies by species and by circumstances.
Yes, you can get a lot closer to rare birds.
That's just justification for getting too close. You're not fooling anyone.
You looked at the bird and the bird didn't look back. Just creep up slow.
Creep is right. Take a second look. If the owl is looking in your direction with its eyes closed, but one is open just a slit, it's watching you. If it's looking in a different direction altogether, it's probably not. The advice is just watch the bird's eyes. If you watch this channel regularly, you know I was in Quebec last week and saw my first boreal owl. When I first got up on that bird, I could see the yellow eyes looking right at me. So I backed up a bit and the eyes closed, except one stayed open just a slit. So I stepped back even further because I could. I shoot a Canon Vixia HFG50. It has a 20 power zoom. I spent a lot of money on this camera, so I wouldn't have to crowd a bird. And it was money well spent. I think larger owls are more likely to flush. The American Birding Association says stay at least 100 yards away from a snowy owl, if you can. This young lady right here is sitting in a backyard swing set in a crowded neighborhood on the edge of Maine's largest city. There are 8 people watching her right now, and she's not really even looking in this direction. Every now and then she just takes a peek over to make sure we're okay, but doesn't seem stressed, but she may be. It's a little bit situational. Even rare owls can get accustomed to people if they're not threatened. But what's a threat? Getting too close, circling around, pointing something large in its direction. Last week, this great gray owl got a lot of visitors. Some too close, but it stayed put. This one in a more remote area, which hadn't been visited by a lot of people, flushed the moment 3 photographers stepped out of the woods within 50 yards. This one back in the park didn't flush even when being harassed by a photographer who wanted to get an action photo. All right, let's go somewhere else. I like this spot. Northern saw-whet owls nest in here every year. Look, I'm not going to get all preachy. Nobody is perfect. We have all sinned.
We know.
Remember that time with the snowy owl? Yes, I remember. That was 12 years ago in Wells Harbor, Maine. Snowy owl just stood in the pole next to me. He wasn't staring at me, but he did look over a lot. Eventually, he took off. I don't know if I flushed him or not, but I wish I could take that one back. Let's change the subject. Is it ethical to bait owls with live mice?
Why not? Some of these wintering owls are far from home. They're probably hungry and might even die without help. You might be saving a life. You get a good photo, the owl gets a good meal. You feed other birds ethically. Why not this one? The only one that doesn't benefit is the mouse.
The devil's tongue. You're tempting a bird into changing its natural behavior. Unless you can throw a mouse farther than Josh Allen can throw a football, you're bringing it closer to humans, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid. It's against the law in Canada, where it's considered a form of poaching and wildlife harassment. And you might get the bird killed. Yeah, about 10 years ago, I heard about this. Somebody attracted an owl with a mouse in central Maine, drew it right into the path of a speeding car. And that was the end of that. So why does all this really matter? Biologists estimate there's maybe as much as 30,000 snowy owls left in the entire world. You take great gray owls, there's maybe 180,000. That's 6 times more than snowies. There's maybe 200,000 northern hawk owls, according to estimates. So snowy owls really are few and far between, and every one of them matters. And they're already being hurt by other environmental factors. Climate change is certainly one. There's evidence avian flu has taken a toll on them. Rodenticide. Rat poison is really starting to accumulate in the systems of a lot of raptors that eat rodents. And snowy owls, almost every snowy owl, they necropsy, shows signs of rat poisoning. Any additional stress we put on them is just causing more harm to a population that's already pretty small and can drop in a heartbeat. So keep that in mind when you're determining your own ethical standards. Besides respecting the birds, the ABA Code of Ethics says respect people. How often does this happen to you? You go to chase an unusual bird and somebody 10 minutes ahead of you flushes it and it goes away. I was in Churchill, Manitoba when a Ross's gull was spotted. 10 minutes before I pulled up to see this mega lifer, somebody flushed it and disappeared. And I know who that was. 3 young birders from New Jersey came all the way to Quebec to see this great gray owl. But that's the same owl that those 3 photographers 50 yards away flushed. They missed that owl by 2 minutes. And it's not just owls. Any rare bird can be driven off by overly enthusiastic birders. For rare birds considered sensitive, eBird won't even mark the location for where these birds have been sighted. Great gray owl? No. Snowy owl? Yes. Short-eared owl? Yes. Northern hawk owl? No. And this is kind of an interesting one. The ABA says be respectful to people who look like they might be engaging in unethical behavior, because some people know they're misbehaving, but some people don't. And it's a positive opportunity to be more educational about the proper birding ethics. This could be a teaching opportunity. Somebody really ought to do a video on it. Would anybody watch it? Yes.
No.
And there are plenty of ways to tarnish the experience for other birders. Pishing and audio playback, when other birders are around the corner and out of sight and can't see where the noise is coming from. A few years ago, we started getting reports of eastern screech owl up near the Canadian border, and there are no screech owls there. Well, it turns out somebody was playing calls of a screech owl, trying to encourage local songbirds to come in to mob the owl. Oops. And it wasn't me. Audio playback is another whole category of ethics that we need to discuss. In fact, we did. I'll post that at the end of this video. The point is, try not to unduly disturb birds and birders. The other big standard in the ABA Code of Ethics is respect for laws and private property. But it goes beyond that. Remember the snowy owl? Rare owls in a populated area can disrupt a neighborhood, can disturb people on their own property, even if you're not on their property. About 10 years ago, a northern hawk owl showed up in a yard about an hour away from me. And it became famous. And so many people went to visit that owl that they parked along the side of the road, a public access road, but in so many numbers that the landowner at the end of the road could not get to his own driveway. A few years ago, I was in northern Minnesota and had a northern hawk owl in a tree over a guy's garage. Now, I stay outside in the driveway, film from a distance. He comes out wondering what I'm doing on the edge of his property. When I say that first, I don't trespass, and second, he's got a rare bird at the top of his tree. He is thrilled that this bird is there, and it promptly invites me in. If you show respect, you get respect. Honestly, I don't even like to look at somebody's bird feeder in their yard. More than once I've had somebody say, "Why are you staring through binoculars into my window?" And sometimes you just have to agree not to see a bird. Black rail is extraordinarily tough. They used to drag chains through a marsh to force it out. Is that ethical? Hell no. Sorry. Too late. So back to the question, why is this snowy owl in a crowded neighborhood on the edge of Maine's biggest city? On the one side, there's Scarborough Marsh, which when frozen in the winter looks like tundra, the snowy owl's natural habitat. And on the other side, the ocean. Turns out snowy owls, which are fast flyers, can chase down aquatic birds. And at night, they just go out in the ocean and pick off a bufflehead or a long-tailed duck, and I guess anything up to the size of a common loon. Who knew? That was going to be the end of the story, and then this happened. This morning, I'm leading a group of Maine Audubon birders looking for finches, and I parked the car where I know there's been a good flock of finches, and I got out of the car, and I look up, and there's a barred owl staring me right in the face, almost point blank. Well, he looks at me for just a moment, shrugs his shoulders, and goes back to watching for a red squirrel. Now picture this. 22 people get out of 7 cars. I tell everybody, move up slowly, quietly, and everybody gets to within 40 feet of this owl, and he does not care, shows no signs of panic whatsoever. Moral of the story is, if you don't want to look like a threat, don't look like a threat.